one, I've just always been like a relentless optimist.
Yeah.
But I would say there's a few like key moments that changed my life.
Sure.
When I was in college, my mom passed away from cancer. That was 2017. And I would say largely up to that, I was a very stereotypical average person, like self-absorbed.
Sure.
And I think that, I was like, I had just turned 20. And I feel like every, 17 to 20-year-old is very self-absorbed.
Sure. Yeah.
Me to the most. Like I talked for the sake of hearing my own voice, which is funny because I still talk to this living. But if you really listen to the words I was saying versus the words I say today, it is not about how cool Nate is and what I'm doing. It is about like the stories around Indiana, and I'm just like a mouthpiece.
Yep.
But I stopped being so self-absorbed and realized that one, you have a limited time on Earth. And you might as well like make the biggest impact you possibly can. Yeah. And so when my mom passed away, my grandmother, my mom's mom, basically stepped in and became like a de facto mother for me. Yeah. She was like, she was born in 1926. So like she would be 100 this year. Wow. She passed away a few years back, but like totally different circumstances. Sure. Like my mom was young. My grandma had lived like the greatest life, like so rich and full. And when my mom passed away, I would go home and I would visit my grandma, and we would just spend hours sitting there in her living room, sitting there. She ended up moving into like a retirement community. Okay. And I would go in there and sit, and no TV, or if it was like Jeopardy on. And it'd be like, okay, I can either sit here and hang out and watch Jeopardy, or I can have conversations. Yeah. And she taught me how to be curious because at her surface level, grandma was a 90-year-old farmer's wife who had always just like done the laundry, had a garden, and cooked and cleaned. Sure. And it's like, if you never asked the question, you would think that was true. But then once I, started asking questions and digging deeper, I learned that she had gone to a year of college at St. Mary's and got her bookkeeping, like taking a class in bookkeeping. And that was like, you didn't have to get a degree. You just had to take a class. Interesting. And then she came back and she would work in offices and then ran my grandpa's businesses. Like people would call her and she was doing the bookkeeping. She was like the receptionist / customer success. Like she was like a total boss. She had done a cross-country train trip by herself to visit her college roommate. She had worked in a factory during World War II, making the tubes that went in radios for airplanes. Like she had done all these amazing things. On top of that, raised 5 boys and my mom, had lost a child, like all of these crazy things that are like really, really interesting. And if you would have just looked at it on the stereotypical service level, it's like, oh, she would have just known how to like cook a good meal and do laundry. Yeah. And it forced me to be curious and learn about her and the way she thought and the way she felt. And, she was just such a giver and was so good to her community and was so devout in her religion and all these things that, again, as a grandkid, if I just would have sat there and like waited for her to lead the conversation, like on the surface level, we had nothing in common. Sure. But then once you dove deeper, we had everything in common. And it was literally like a turning point in my life where I became genuinely, not fake, like interested in other people and their stories. And kind of taking the onus and the responsibility that I have to ask the right questions. If you think someone is vanilla or generic, it's probably because you're not asking the right questions. Yeah. And probably because you're not like, figuring out how to relate to them and what drives them and what they're interested in. And you're probably just having like the classic surface level conversation. Right. And like, shame on me if that's how I'm living my life. Right.
So your mom had a big influence on you then? Growing up? Or?
She was like the face of levity. Yeah. Like even in like, the moments where as a kid I was like, you're so embarrassing. Like stop trying to make jokes. Like she was just levity, like never took herself too seriously, no matter, we could be like when you're a kid, that's embarrassing. I remember being a teenager and it was like, all the parents of the football team or whatever get together and she would like crack a joke and like the doctor, like the doctor, the local business person's in the room and I'm like, oh my gosh, that's so but it was like it was never like ill will or making fun of it. It was just like that's so silly. Yeah. Like literally like that was, and I would just like you almost like roll your eyes and you're like, oh my gosh. But you just like looking back now, that's why everyone loved her. Like she was just like, again, a breath of fresh air and levity and never took herself too seriously. And Again, I didn't appreciate all that at the time. I was a self-absorbed 19, 20-year-old, like
Right.
not really knowing what was going on in life and only worried about me.
Right.
And it was wild. I actually look back on it and um I could have been so much better for her,
Mm.
and I got a second chance to be better for my grandma.
Yeah.
If that like I kind of learned the hard way by like getting to the end and realizing I had never asked the right questions.
Oh,
I had never really learned about like what she cared about,
yeah.
or like I remember when she got diagnosed, I gave her like a little notebook,
Sure.
and I was like, "Tell your story."
Mm.
And it's like, dude, what do you mean? Like, how is someone supposed to sit down? Like my mom didn't go to college.
Mhm.
She like spelling and writing and learning, like that just wasn't really in her forte.
Sure.
And so I gave her this notebook, and like then I remember opening the notebook after she passed away, and I was disappointed that she hadn't like bestowed some prophetic wisdom on me. And I was like, shame on you, Nate.
Oh,
You didn't ask her a question. You didn't check in on it.
yeah.
You didn't even you did nothing to like help out on that or like ask the right questions. You just expected her to read your brain and read your mind and put it all down in this notebook. Like,
Yeah.
so then with my grandma, I like crafted the right questions
Yeah.
and like documented a lot of what she had told me of like, what her proudest achievement for her family was,
That's
and
awesome.
what her most prized possession was. And it
Hmm.
ended up, it was a crystal rosary that she got on the day of her wedding from my grandpa.
Wow.
And it was like, she's like, worn the beads dry on that thing, like worn it, like worn them down, like
Uh-huh.
praying the rosary. And
Wow.
she was like the most devout Catholic woman I'd ever known.
Uh-huh.
Because I asked the questions.
Yep.
And so it was like, for me, my mom made a huge influence, but like, I didn't appreciate it while I had it. And I
Yeah.
feel like, they always say youth is wasted on the young.
Yeah.
And
Right.
like that moment, but then through like, a higher power, God,
Yep. Yep.
you get a second chance to like be the kid, be the
Mhm.
son, be the support system that I probably always could have been.
Sure.
And then like that parlays into I get to sit down and talk to people for a living and try to ask the best
Yeah.
questions possible, getting them to say, I've never thought about that before. Or like,
Yeah.
no one's ever, that's gold for a podcast host, right?
100%. Yeah.
No one's ever asked me that.
Yeah.
That you're either way off track or you're right on
Yeah,
the money
right.
there. Like, there's no in between when someone says that.
Yeah.
And
100%.
usually it's like right where you want to be for a podcast.
Yeah. So if you had the chance, what question would you ask your mom if you had the opportunity?
No one has ever asked me that.
I hope that's a
Great.
good one.
I think I would ask her how she measured success.
Mm. Yeah.
And like in this world that we live in, it's like from the outside looking in, it's like people will use top line revenue. They'll use how big your house is, how many followers you have, how many views you get. And like those are all great metrics that I track, that our company tracks, that is great. But like what fills me up and makes me excited, like, isn't that much different with 9,000 followers or 90,000
Right.
followers.
Yeah.
Like it's not like all of a sudden you get to 90,000 and like, oh yeah, like now you hit the happiness number.
Right.
Like, you're happy now.
You're right.
It's
Yeah.
like looking at like, am I making an impact? Am I getting more emails like that from people whose businesses we're helping,
Mm.
from stories we're telling where, like we've had fathers and mothers and grandfathers and grandmothers come on and their grandkids or their kids listen to it and they're like, no one ever asked grandpa that. Like no, like I didn't know that that's how that part of their life went.
Right.
I didn't know that they were that proud of their family.
Yeah.
Like meaningful conversations. It's like that's success to me. But it'd be interesting to know, like as someone who's now on the other side, it's like, well, how are you measuring success at the end? And
Yeah.
like, what could having that discussion about like when you see the writing on the wall of where it all ends, like what were you thinking about,
Yeah.
and what did you care about, and then how do I apply that into my life today?
Yeah. That would be some answer, I'm sure. What do you think she'd tell you looking at what you built?
Dude, she wouldn't. I don't think she would get it.
No.
No one gets it. Like
Right.
my grandparents, I still have two grandparents that are
Okay.
living, and it's like we went out to dinner the other night,
Uh-huh.
and it was like it was at like I was on a trip up in northern
Okay.
Indiana where they're from. I'm on a trip and it's paid for. And they're like, wait, what? Like it's like you don't have to pay for this dinner? And I was like, no, Grandpa, get the steak. Like it's free. Like, and they're like, they don't
Yeah.
get that. But then it's like I try to equate it to like, remember back in the day when you were watching whoever on the nightly news or whoever. It's like this is like where that is going towards.
Yeah.
So my mom's similar thing. She would be like, wait, what? You get paid for this? And without a doubt, she would be like the first comment on every single video. She'd be like it would be just so funny because like, again, I was an only child.
Okay.
I am an only child. And the time growing up when your mom is your loudest cheerleader, and like brings a cowbell to every football game and every wrestling meet, and like you're like as a kid like, oh my gosh, that's so embarrassing. And looking back now, it would be like she'd be so proud.
Yeah.
And appalled, like just like astonished, not appalled, but astonished of just like if we were out to dinner and it was paid for, that was like her favorite thing. And we were like not very affluent.
Sure.
So like we would go, her and I's like, outing would be going to Taco Bell and
there you go.
ordering like 3 things off the dollar menu for each of us, and like then going to a park or whatever. And she loved doing that and exploring, always wanted to go do stuff. But like we never really like, again, that's why sometimes having like budget friendly stuff is important because we never had money to go like to the movies every night or to the water park or on vacation or whatever it was there. And so she would just be so pumped where it's like, hey, a steakhouse invited us out to dinner and all we have to do is make a video. And she'd be like, no way. Like her mind would be blown. It'd be insane.
That's awesome.
Yeah, man.
So do you ever feel like when you're out there, hyping up these Indiana towns, hyping up these businesses, these people, like you kind of feel your mom with you a little bit of like her hyping you up? Do you ever get like flashbacks of like, man, like that reminds me of my mom hyping me up at the wrestling match? Or
that's funny because I've never made that comparison.
Yeah.
But like literally anyone who knows me, like you got to go back to the Triton High School days.
Sure.
Like she was the front row of everything.
That's awesome.
Didn't understand the rules to football or to wrestling. Like, but would like have her bell and would ring it and was so loud.
Yeah.
She was also deaf. So she had, like legally deaf. She had hearing aids. So she talked so loud. So whenever anyone would ask why I talk so loud, I was like, well, my mom is deaf. And that's how I had to yell so she would hear me. That was like my answer for many years. But she was so loud and would hype me up like none other, introduce me to everyone. And I was like always so embarrassed. So it's like, it's funny. I've never made that comparison until right now. And I'm like, that actually kind of makes sense. That like I just embody what she was doing for me to other people and like learn about them and just like absolutely pour gas on the fire of like, dude, these people are amazing and you need to hear about what they're up to.